Chapter 12, Anastasia's line. Tell me, Anastasia, how did it happen that you and your ancestors lived for so long, millennia even, in the remote forest, away from society? If, as you say, all mankind is a single body, and all have a single origin, then why is your ancestral line, in contrast to all the rest, a kind of outcast? You are right. We all have one parent. And then there are the parents whom we can see. But every human soul has the freedom to choose his own path, leading to a determined goal. Among other things, the choice depends on how one's feelings are nurtured. Who, then, thus nurtured your distant forebears in such a way that your line is so distinctive even today? In your lifestyle, let's say, or to the way that you understand things? It happened in times long ago. I know I said long ago, but it seems as though it happened only yesterday. Perhaps I can best put it this way. A time came when mankind aspired not to co-creation, but to analyzing God's creation. Back when spears were already flying and hides of faithful creatures were already considered worthy features on people's bodies. When everyone's consciousness was being altered and being directed along the path leading to today. When human thought faltered, aspiring not to creation but to the accumulation of knowledge. All at once, people began analyzing the process by which men and women were able to experience tremendous satisfaction by merging their bodies together. Then, for the first time, men began possessing the women, and women submitted to the men not for the sake of co-creation, but so that the both of them could experience a satisfying sensation. It seemed to them, as it seems to people living today, that such a sensation comes afresh each time there is a merging of the male and female elements, their visible bodies, their flesh. In fact, the satisfaction from merging of mere fleshly bodies is fleeting and incomplete. In the intercourse of carnal desire, there is no participation by the higher planes of the human self. I'm going to read that again. In the intercourse of carnal desire, there is no participation by the higher planes of the human self. Man aspired to feel a sense of fullness by changing bodies and methods of coming together. But even today, he has not achieved anything fully. The sad consequences of these carnal pleasures has been their children. The children were deprived of conscious aspirations toward the goal of the realization of the divine dream. And women began experiencing pain in childbirth. And the rising generation was doomed to live in torment. And the absence of the three planes of being meant they were afforded no opportunity of attaining happiness in any way. And so we have come down to the present day. One of the first women to experience pain in childbirth saw that her newborn baby girl had injured her little leg during the birth and was so frail that she wasn't even able to utter a cry. The women also saw that the man who had enjoyed sexual pleasure with her remained indifferent to the birth and was already seeking to pleasure himself with another woman. And so the woman who had chanced to become a mother became annoyed at God She grabbed her newborn baby girl and ran with it with all her might, far away from everyone else, right into the middle of the woods, an isolated place where no one lived. Stopping to catch her breath in her despair, wiping tears from her cheeks, she kept railing at God with words of frustrated anger. Why? Why in your resplendent world, as you describe it, is there pain and evil and repudiation? I do not experience any satisfaction when I look at the world of your creation. I am in utter dejection, and I am burning up with anger. I have been rejected by everybody. And the one whom I made love to is now making love to another. He has forgotten about me. And you were the one who made them. You see, he is yours. The one who was untrue and betrayed me. After all, she, the one making love to him, was also made by you. These are your creations, true? And what about me? I just want to strangle them. I am burning up with annoyance at them. Your world has become forlorn and joyless for me. What kind of fate did you select for me? And why did I bear this deformed and half-dead child? I do not want anyone to see it. There is no joy for me in contemplating it. The woman didn't just put the child down. She callously tossed the barely living lump, her own daughter, onto the ground. In her despair and anger, she again cried out to God, "Let nobody ever lay eyes on my daughter, but you look and see. Look and see the torments taking place among your creations. Her life is not to be. I shall not be able to feed the child that I have borne. My ill temper has burnt the milk in my breast. I am going away, but you look and see. Look and see how many imperfections there are in the world you have created. Let your birth die in your sight. Let it die among the creations of the earth." And that mother ran away from her own daughter, angry and forlorn. The newborn baby was left all alone, a barely breathing, helpless little lump, lying on the wooded ground. My distant foremother was in that baby girl, Vladimir. God could feel the anger and despair coming from the earth. He felt distress and compassionate care for that tearful, depressed woman. But the invisible Father who loved her could not alter her destiny. The woman running in despair was wearing a crown of God-bestowed freedom. Every man fashions the destiny of his own soul. The material plane of being is subject to no one. It is under the complete control of man himself. I'm trying to block the phone from the wind. Jesus, sorry. Okay. God is a person. He is the Father of all, but he does not exist in the flesh. Not in the flesh. But in him there is a complex of all the diverse energies of the universe, a whole complex of feelings belonging to man. He can rejoice, and he can feel distress. He can grieve over one of his sons or daughters who choose a path leading to suffering. He glows with fatherly tenderness to all and each day. For all without exception, he caresses the entire earth with a sunray of love. Day after day, he never loses hope that the daughters and sons of his conception will follow the divine path, not under orders, not through fear. They will use their freedom of choice to determine their own path to conjoint creation, regeneration, and joy from its contemplation. Our Father has faith, and he waits, and he sustains life with his self. Our Father includes the whole complex of human feelings. Could anybody imagine how our Father, God, felt when his newborn child lay quietly dying there alone in his forest wild, among his own creations? The baby girl did not cry. She did not even make a sound. The little heartbeat was slowing down. Just occasionally, her tiny lips searched around for some life-giving nipple. She felt thirsty. God does not have hands of flesh, even though he is all-seeing. He could not clasp the baby girl to his breast. Having given everything to man, what more could he possibly give? And so he who is capable of filling the whole universe with the energy of his dream, compressed himself into a lump of energy over that forest. A wee tiny lump, capable of dispersing all the vast worlds of the universe at a single burst. He concentrated the energy of his love right over that forest, the love he expressed towards all his creations. Through them, he embodied himself in his acts upon the earth, and they and a little drop of rain touched the lips of the baby girl lying there on the ground, lips which were already turning blue, and at once a warm breeze blew. From the trees fell pollen dust, and the baby girl breathed it in. And the day went by, and the night came on, and the baby girl was still alive. All the beasts and creatures of the wild, embraced by a divine delight, recognized this baby girl as their own child. Years passed, and this little girl grew and became a young woman. I can call her Lilith. Footnote: Lilith, in Jewish folklore, a female demon of the night associated with owls. In a more recent Hebrew legend, the first wife of Adam in the Genesis story, who refused to subordinate to him and was expelled from Eden to become a malevolent wanderer. However, both the name Lilith and her image can be traced back to pre-Jewish traditions. In Sumerian culture, the goddess or demoness Lila was depicted as a winged woman surrounded by owls. In Sanskrit, the term Lila signifies divine play and conveys the idea of creator's enjoyment at the sight of his unfolding creation. In ancient Gaelic, Lili is a snow-white lily, and the Gaelic feminine name, Lili, to the present day is associated with purity, chastity, and innocence. the name of the ancient Slavic goddess of love, the female aspect of God the Creator, is Lelia or Lilia in ancient Slavic myths, and in ancient Slavic myths, a winged goddess in the form of an owl is mother of God Svarog, creator of the universe. The old Russian verb lilit means cherish or love. End footnote. I can call her Lilith. As she strode over the ground, all bright in the sun's early rays, all the other life around called out her name in gladness and in praise. Lilith's smile illuminated and caressed the world God had created around her. Lilith accepted everything around her as we would accept our mother or dad. As she grew up, she would venture more and more often to the edge of the forest, quietly concealing herself amidst the tall grasses and bushes. She watched as people so similar in appearance to her went about their daily life. But what a strange life it was. They were distancing themselves more and more from God's creations, building houses to live in, cutting down everything around, and for some reason clothing themselves in animal hides. They took great pride in killing God's creatures, and boasted about who could most quickly kill their prize. And they kept on producing something out of dead matter. Back then, Lilith did not yet realize that people who created dead things out of living things considered themselves thereby to be very wise. She aspired to tell these people about things that could bring joy to everyone. She very much desired a conjoint creation and the joy that comes from its contemplation. She felt an ever-growing need within her to bring about the birth of a new, living, divine creation. More and more frequently, her gaze rested upon one man in particular. He was rather a plain sort in comparison to his fellows. He did not distinguish himself at spear throwing and considered himself a less than successful hunter. He was pensive and often sang quietly to himself. He would often go off on his own and dream about something all alone. One day Lilith went out to meet these people. She had collected living gifts from the forest and carried them in a withy basket out to a crowd of people, men standing around a baby elephant they had slain and arguing arcanely about something. And he was there among them, her chosen one. At the sight of her, all voices suddenly became mute. Lilith was a woman of exceptional beauty. She had not taken steps to veil her exposed, slender figure. Unaware of the hold carnal desires had already secured for themselves over male human beings, they crassly thrust themselves at her en masse. Putting her gifts down on the ground, she noticed the fire of fleshly lust and desire burning in their eyes. And he, her chosen one, ran after all the rest. Even from a distance, Lilith still felt how forcefully the wave of aggression touched the delicate strings of her soul. Taking a step back, she turned suddenly and ran from the whole approaching horde of warriors. Seething with lust, they kept up their chase for a long time. She ran without any difficulty in breathing and did not tire out, while those in pursuit were dripping with sweat. But they were not to lay a hand on Lilith. Those who thirsted to capture this beauty were unaware of the truth that to know beauty, one must include such beauty within one's own self. And the warriors were tired of the chase. Losing sight of Lilith, they started wandering back the way they came and went astray. Eventually, they found their way. all but one. Weary from running, he sat down on a fallen tree and began to sing. Lilith quietly concealed herself and recognized the singer as the one her heart felt a yen for, Y-E-N, who had also given chase after her with the other men in the crowd. Nevertheless, she still allowed him to catch sight of her at a distance to show him the right way back to his camp. And he followed, but he did not run after her. Upon arriving at the edge of the forest and seeing his camp and the campfire burning there, he forgot everything and started running toward it. Lilith watched as her chosen one ran off. Her heart would beat in an unfamiliar way, or all at once stop, as Lilith repeated to herself, "Be happy among the others, my beloved. Be happy. How I would love to hear not a sad tune, but your gladsome croon here in my forest, dear." All at once the runner stopped and turned back toward the forest, as though pausing in reflection. He looked at the camp, and again in the direction of the forest. Suddenly he threw away his spear and confidently took a step forward. He strode over to where Lilith was standing concealed. Lilith kept watching as he walked past her hiding place, her eyes fixed upon him. Perhaps it was her gaze of love that stopped him in his tracks. He turned and walked back in her direction. She did not flee at his approach. She placed her still timid hand onto his outstretched palm, and together they started walking hand in hand, though not a word had yet passed between them. There they were, walking toward the glade where Lilith had grown up, my father, the poet, and my foremother. Years passed, and the line continued. And in each generation of my forebears, one person at least was inspired by the desire to go visit those other people, so similar in appearance, but with quite a different destiny. They would undergo various guises. They might mix in with the warriors or the priests, or pass themselves off as scholars. As poets, they shone with their poetry. They tried to let people know that there was another path to man's happiness, and that the one who created all was right with them. Only they need not hide themselves from him and pursue their vain mercenary interests, or cherish other entities in place of the Father. They tried to tell the others, and perished. And even when a man or woman was left alone, through their love they would find a friend among those who lived a different lifestyle. And so our line continued. And with our thinking and our way of life, true to our pristine origins, remained unchanged in the end.